Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sell Me a Movie. Here is a subcategory on the Cavalier Studios YouTube channel where what I do is I go ahead and discuss my personal opinion, not so much a critic's opinion, but what I do is as a movie enthusiast is provide you my personal opinion about a movie, whether if it's out in theaters, out on Blu-ray, or streaming on many of the streaming services, which is kind of technically like cable anyways. So if you're new to the channel, thank you guys so much for subscribing, and please show your support. If you are new and not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like, comment on all the videos, as well as follow us on all social platforms, and the link for the merchandise to help the channel is down below, so make sure you guys check that out as well. So one thing that we are going to be starting off new is all the spoiler-free reviews will be done on the real side of things, where it's a 15-second movie review on whether or not if I liked it and what I liked and did not like about a film. And then the spoiler version of the actual movies will be done, of course, here on the channel, where it would be more of the live videos, where, of course, I'm here, I'm editing, I'm doing the movie reviews for you guys. So today it will be a spoiler movie review for Deadpool Wolverine. Now, if you don't want to watch the spoiler review on it, that's okay. Check out the 15-second reel. And if you are my wife watching this, which I know if you are, please don't watch this. Obviously, I want to show you the movie before you actually show your support and watch this movie review itself. So, and without further ado, let's go ahead and go through a spoiler version movie review for Deadpool Wolverine. Now, if you're actually caught up with the Marvel films, congratulations. If you've missed any between the past 20 years of Marvel, my biggest recommendation before you see this film is actually go out and watch them. I know it may take a lot of time, and I'm talking about before the MCU. I'm talking the old school Fantastic Four. I'm talking about the old school X-Men films, all of those, and maybe even some before that, the Blade movies too, only because of the fact that what this film does is it makes you believe that all the 20 plus years that you've been watching the Marvel films, loving those films, it doesn't feel like a waste of time, that there was a reason for all of it, and it's because of this movie. This is that reason of why you sat there and you watched all the movies that you love and you grew up with, especially Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Now, here in front of me is a screen from IMDb, because basically, as you know, there are a lot of cameos, and in all honesty, there's one too many to actually remember everyone's name, so this is a little bit easier. So with that in mind, the director of the movie is, of course, Shawn Levy. The writers is, once again, Ryan Reynolds, Reese Paul Wernick, and then the stars is obviously Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Emma Corwin. And the cast of it is, like I said, Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool, Hugh Jackman is Logan, aka Wolverine. Emma Corwin plays Cassandra Nova, which is actually the twin sister of Professor Charles Xavier. Matthew McFadden, who plays Mr. Paradox, one of the other villains in here. Of course, you have Jon Favreau, Happy Hogan, Morena Baccarin, who plays Vanessa, Rob Delaney, who plays Peter, Leslie Uggams, Blind Owl, basically, Aaron Stanford, Pyro, yes, the Pyro that we all know, Tyler Mane, Sabretooth, classic Sabretooth, Karen Suni, which is Dopender, Brianna Hildebrand, which is Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Shioli Kutsuna, who played Yukio, Stephen Kapisic plays Colossus, Louis Tan, who plays Shatterstar, Sonita Henry, Mrs. Chipman. Then, of course, you have Randall Reeder, who plays Buck, but there's a lot more in here. And, of course, I'll go ahead and discuss the film now, because some of the cameos is quite easily to remember. So, basically, the premise of this film is the whole key fact of the first Deadpool. It was finding love, basically, and that was Vanessa. The second one was more of what he called a family film. Now, this film is basically all about how Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, is meaningful. Like, what is the reason? And, of course, you find out that him and Vanessa did break up, and the reason for that is because Vanessa realize that Wade has lost his ways. And what I mean by that is because Wade Wilson is trying to figure out, in a way, of who he is and where he fits in and what's his purpose, essentially. And this leaves off of Deadpool 2, which, of course, it shows all the past previous scenes from Deadpool 2 and Deadpool 1. So you can honestly go into this film without seeing the other two, and you'll be perfectly fine. So you see all the sequences from the second one, you see all the time travel and stuff, and one of the things that he did end up actually doing is go to Earth 616, the main continuity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and actually talk to Happy Hogan because he wants to join the Avengers. Of course, he gets declined, and with that kind of sets him on the propeller to go backwards rather than forwards, and Vanessa sees that. And really, she just wants the old Wade back. And because of Wade going into like the depressing state, they end up breaking up, which kind of spirals Wade down to even more depression, where he ends up getting a 9-to-5 job because he wants to impress Vanessa. And of course, he's a car salesman, which you see that kind of in the trailer, in the retrospect of him stapling a fake hair on his head. So there's that. But ultimately, what ends up happening is because of the sequences from the second Deadpool where he does do all the time traveling, TVA shows up. Yes, the same TVA from the Loki series shows up because he's been a bad individual. And of course, they take him to the TVA, and you find out later, and the reason for that is because of the character Mr. Paradox, again played by Matthew McFadden. And what ended up happening is because of the events of Logan, which he ended up dying, he was the main source, the main reason why that universe survived, was because of that. That's why the Fox universe kept living for all those years. And they basically tell you that. So because of that, Logan dying, now Wade's universe is pretty much going to be gone. Everybody that he loves and he cares about as his family, they're essentially all going to die because of the fact that that universe strand is dwindling away. Now, how does he fix that? Well, that's essentially where you see Deadpool go into a montage of trying to find another Wolverine. Now, in these sequences, it's kind of where you get the first cameos. Now, you'll see all of this, the scenes where he goes into the universes, and within that, there are actually snippets of comic book either covers, sequences, or panels from a comic book, but they're very culture-based. So if you've read any Wolverine comic books, they'll stand out like a sore thumb, like boom, right there, you'll know exactly where that's from. So that's what I love about this film, is when it pays homage to the comics, it does so brilliantly. So basically you have this whole sequence of him going to different universes, trying to find a Logan. We see a Logan that's basically the same size as he's supposed to be, especially in the comic books, which I think is like 5'5". So you see that height difference, and you kind of see how weird that looks and how funny that is. And all intents purposes of, yeah, no, I'm glad that Hugh Jackman is as tall as he is. Then, of course, you do have one sequence where all you see is the backside of Wolverine, but then fixing up a motorcycle and everything, and it kind of pans away, goes to the next sequence, and then you see Wolverine fighting the Hulk. Yes, the same Mark Ruffalo Hulk. And he does a little snit with the claws coming out and that famous comic book cover that everybody knows and loves. So as that's still continuing, it jumps back to the same Wolverine back and forth that's fixing the motorcycle, but you don't know who it is. And when they finally reveal it, it's none other than Henry Cavill himself playing Wolverine. And of course, Deadpool makes a joke about how it could be an easy transition, an easy switch from Hugh Jackman to Henry Cavill, and the fact that we'll treat Henry Cavill better, a lot better than the individuals, he said, like down the block, like 2 streets down, referring to Warner Brothers. So that was kind of really funny in that sense. So they find a Logan. They find out that this Logan wasn't the best Logan. Now, there is little hints that it could be the Logan from X-Men Origins Wolverine, but I highly doubt that. Because it doesn't really paint a picture that it is that Logan, because X-Men Origins Wolverine was essentially supposed to be in the same universe as the X-Men movies that we know. But anyways, what ends up happening is he brings Logan back to the TVA, and the guy basically makes fun of him, saying, like, you brought the worst Logan back, blah, blah, blah. And they end up sending them to They basically get sent to the Void, where, of course, when they get sent to the Void, you see it as a desolate desert area, because this is kind of where, and it does showcase the logo for 20th Century Fox, which is pretty funny, because it's basically where all the Fox Marvel characters are now at, because you do end up seeing Chris Evans, who is the Human Torch, which, good touch on that, which was very heavily rumored anyways, so he shows up, and then you see Toad as well from the first X-Men movie. He's in here. You see Azul, basically the father of Nightcrawler, so he's in here too, and then the father in what I call the real story for Nightcrawler, because the father is Azul, the mother is Mystique, but now they changed that. And then, of course, you do also have Sabretooth, which Sabretooth and Logan fight lasts for about 5 seconds. So that was kind of interesting on how they took that. But ultimately, they get trapped by them, and then they get taken place to, of course, the home of Cassandra Nova, aka the twin sister of Professor Xavier, she's evil, very evil, and the location of her base is actually inside the skull of Ant-Man, of all places, which Deadpool makes a joke about how Paul Rudd aged and he died. So then we see that sequence play out in the terms of what Cassandra wants to do, and that's basically want to rule the Void as well as want to escape, and just an evil person altogether. Let's just put it that way. And then something happens to the Human Torch, which I won't say exactly, but the sequences that lead up to that, it's really funny. There are a few fight sequences with Deadpool and Wolverine after that. You kind of get a little bit of history of what happened in Logan's past on his universe. And then we get sent to a location, a home base, essentially, and we get our first appearance of Jennifer Garner as Elektra, which we haven't seen since the early 2000s Daredevil. She first comes in, and then Wesley Snipes as Blade. And then after that, we finally get Channing Tatum coming into the film and being Gambit. And for those of you that don't know, Gambit was supposed to be a 20th Century Fox film that was supposed to be a solo film, but that was scrapped. So we finally get to see what Channing Tatum would have looked like, as well as sounded like, and how his character kind of would have played out in a very short time span in this film, which is great and it's wonderful. So those are a few little cameo appearances. There are a lot more within the film, because what ends up happening is, X-23 too. She's also in here. So Logan's daughter from the film Logan, obviously the same actress and everything. She shows up and she explains to this Wolverine, even though he failed all of his X-Men because he went out to the bar, he got drunk, came back, and then come to find out all of the X-Men are dead. And he feels like he had failed them. So X-23 basically tells him that, the Logan on my universe, every Wolverine, they were never made for the job. They're not meant for the job, but they were always needed to get the job done. So basically putting the fact that Logan, they need his help to defeat Cassandra Nova. So at that point, they go to her base. They basically cause havoc. And the reason for this is because Cassandra Nova, as well as Pyro, they're kind of in cahoots with Mr. Paradox, who's trying to destroy that universe, which is something that you find out as well. So Deadpool Wolverines tried to escape the Void to try and save Deadpool's universe, which ultimately at the end they do. Now, in this film, there is a lot of funny sequences. When you tear away the funny sequences, and a lot of meta references too, because that was big as well. The storyline is pretty good. It doesn't solidify or stay solid as the other ones. I felt like Deadpool 2 had a lot more of an impactful storyline in terms of more heartfelt in a way, because he's a man who just lost Vanessa, his love of his life. He's trying to end himself to get rid of the pain, but he can't, and come to find out he was able to save her and all that stuff. This one, it's very like cut and dry type plot line in this, which is perfectly fine. But if you take everything out of it, then that's what you get. But because of all the meta references, because of the humoristic to it, because of the violence and everything that we know and love from Deadpool and now Wolverine, that's what makes this movie. Out of the three, honestly, I would put probably 3-1-2. though nothing can really top the first one, I just had a lot more fun in this film, especially in the very first credits that you do see where it kind of starts you off. Kind of plays on how every Deadpool movie is. You can always tell by the opening credits. This one is by far the best opening credits that any Deadpool movie has had, and it sets you up exactly how this movie is going to play out in times of the humor, the gore too, which is very strong, very much stronger than the first one or second one, so be mindful of that. But also how the bantering and the humor of Wolverine and Deadpool is going to play out too. So all in all, I thought that this film was a lot of fun. It was it kept you energized through it. I didn't see any slow point, and everything mattered. From step A to step B to step Z, everything mattered in this plot line, which is fantastic. You didn't feel like you were being led astray anywhere else. So again, probably my favorite one out of the three. You guys can go see it out in theaters. I would recommend that the most is to see it out in theaters instead of waiting at home. But if you guys have seen it, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time for the next review.